with our regularly scheduled board meeting, USD 464 for Monday, May 8th. At this time, would you join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We've got one addition to the agenda. The Rec Commission requested, we have an item, I think Lauren got that distributed out to everyone. So I would need to add item 5.6, Rec Board Member Nomination as item 5.6. Is there a motion to approve the amended agenda?
Jim, we also have a deletion. We don't have any donations for consent.
Okay.
No surplus.
No surplus, okay.
2.7.
So I would move that we amend the agenda, eliminate item 2.7.
Yes.
And then add item 5.6, Rec Board Nomination. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, raise your right hand. All right, motion carried. All right, moving on to presentations. Rebecca, top of the list.
Good evening, guys. So just a quick update on our capital outlay and bond contingency. So I have updated both the capital outlay projections as well as the bond contingency plan, and that's attached to the agenda along with the mill levy analysis from Dustin Avey. That is a continued work in progress, as it will be until those funds have all been used. The other thing we're working on right now is we're prepping for the budget closeout. So numbers are looking good at this point in time. We're going to reevaluate those come June so that we can finish all of our transfers for the year.
Have we been able to keep, I mean, like, I didn't go line by line through, but I know we've done some projects. We've kind of, I mean, we started the capital outlay thing, we built this.
Yes, so if you look at
kinda keep up?
if you look at the capital outlay projection, which is that really big
Right.
spreadsheet, down at the bottom, I have all of the bond contingency projects on there as well, just so that you can see them both on one sheet. And as we've gotten final numbers and bids and quotes in, I've been updating all of those numbers. I also started noting at the bottom any changes I've made so that it's easier for you to keep track of what we've modified.
Does that include the premium for the
That does not include the bond premium. That's a
Okay.
separate
separate? Okay.
thing.
No, and that's kind of why I had her include the bond thing, because I kind of see these a little bit interchangeable. And then, as I mentioned at the tail end of our last meeting, I mean, with the meeting Lauren and I had with Dustin, I mean, he reckoned multiple options, either phasing in some money or, you know, I mean, a conservative approach would be to lump sum into that, and then we should be able to reduce that mill because our valuation is growing so fast.
Right. Using the bond premium, you mean?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
That
Yeah,
would
because
help.
there's not the same restrictions on that as.
Well, it has to go somewhere.
Yeah.
Well, I don't. Yeah, you're. Oh, right. Like the. Yeah, I'm not 100% certain on that. I mean, it's
Okay.
got to go for project, but we could put it into that bond fund because we've already done that with the
Okay.
when we lost the state matching or funding. But I mean, I think.
Well, when we build the budget, Dustin will definitely be part of that equation as far as helping us look at that mill levy and how we can adjust that. And it'll be with bonded interest, no doubt.
I mean, I think kind of the point tonight was to have Rebecca give us an updated current version of this as much as we could. We can kind of keep studying this as we move into the bond budget
Right.
process.
So with the bond contingency and this capital outlay, the capital outlay is its own beast. But with the bond contingency, since that's kind of what we've been focusing on right now with our projects, every time I get an update on those, I will update this, and then I'll send it out to you before each board meeting for the foreseeable future.
And I think the big thing too, from when we put this together, I mean, I know Justin helped with the spreadsheet some, is, I mean, there's a few of these are some really big items like roof, HVAC, parking lot. It's trying to make sure we have that covered into the future as we take on anything else.
Those are all budgeted out for the most part a couple of years. So if you look at that and you see that capital outlay growing, that's why. It's so that we can be prepared when we have those big ticket items that we know we're going to have to do. We'll be able to have the funds to do it.
Yeah, the roof on the middle school is probably one of the biggest
Could be,
ones.
ask Mitch, that's probably pretty high, and then the HVAC too.
Yeah.
Like 25 through 27, plan to do roof first and then HVAC. Two of the first big ticket items over the long term, but I think those
Right.
within the next 5 years,
Yeah.
Yeah.
planned at least.
You'll see those on the projects down underneath the capital outlay. They're listed out under 26, 27, and I think 27, 28.
I mean, and we pulled those figures from the capital, DLR and the capital planning thing, right? And then we put a
Right.
little bit of,
Those-
some escalators on them out to the future to kind of,
Those are definitely our best guesstimate with the information we have right now. Who knows what it'll look like 5 years from now?
right. Yeah,
But we're carrying a 8% inflation, it looks like, too, so.
Yes.
Yeah.
This has really been a good document for us
I-
to work with.
I think it really helps illustrate what an out year looks like. I like it, and I appreciate you updating it. It looks good.
Yeah.
The next step for budget, we will have a budget workshop probably in June. They haven't announced that yet. And then in July, we'll start working on 23-24
Next
budget.
year. Got the first email about general fund today, so
So,
it's all gonna start.
okay.
Any questions? I mean, I think just everybody maybe stay familiar with this and hold it close as we, kind of keep moving into the budget process and considering some of the other, we've taken on a lot of projects, but I mean, I think we've tried to ask that this be included with, if we're looking at other large projects down the road, just so we can kind of make sure we're planning accordingly.
Yep.
Anything else for Rebecca?
Thanks,
All right.
guys.
Appreciate
you.
it.
Thank you.
Jill.
Jill's become highly technical for us.
Hopefully this goes okay. Almost set. Sorry. Am I? I think no. Yes. Maybe it goes on the other side. Uh-huh.
Yeah.
What?
Kind of lead into this a second, I've asked Jill to address a couple of items actually, and she did a nice job over the weekend with the narrative. I hope you had a chance to read that about the radios and what's all going on there. And there were a few questions, and quite honestly, we at this time do not know.
Well,
Did you find out
I
today?
got a little bit more information today.
Okay.
So.
Why don't you just summarize and.
Yeah.
Okay, so for the summary, we lost our radio. Like, we came in Wednesday morning and we had radios, and that afternoon we had no reception at all. And so I called our radio guy, thank you, right away to find out what was happening. They couldn't come out until Friday, which was the Friday we didn't have school. That was the 21st. So they came out and said, your repeater's bad. We don't have parts on the truck, we'll bring you out something Monday to get you through. So they came out Monday and put in the new repeater and said, your antenna is gone. It wasn't the repeater, there's no antenna. So then they came out the following Thursday and brought the drone, and I sent those pictures to you guys to show that it had in fact been removed. So
And that's from a tower, right?
from the tower.
Right.
Mhm. Yes. So we had an antenna on this tower that's off Smiley Road, and you go up Hatchell, and that big antenna that you can see. We had an antenna on that tower. So we didn't know at the time. We didn't know who owned the tower, why our antenna had been taken off, any of those things. So our radio people have been kind of reaching out on our behalf to figure things out. So they found out that American Tower is the owner of the tower, but they are the newer owners of the tower. So apparently what I found out today is Verizon used to own the tower, and there was a gentleman's agreement for us to put our antenna on that tower, but we weren't paying any rent or anything. It was just agreed. So when American Tower took over, they decided they're just going to take down our antenna. Like, I don't even know if that seems like it shouldn't have been happened without any kind of knowledge to us, but that's how it went down. So I did find that out today, that's kind of what transpired there. So our radio people put up a temporary antenna on top of the box up there on the hill where our repeater is. And so it basically kind of covers the city limits of Tonganoxie. So it gives us a little bit of range, but not a lot. However, when we go out on trips, they can talk radio to radio in the buses. So that's very helpful given that it's April, May, and everybody's taking field trips. So at least we can talk to each other when we're out on the road, out. So I've done some research. I have actually been, my long-term goal was to try to go digital because, sorry, there we go. Was to go digital because the range is like this. So all the way out to Junction City, which we go, Manhattan. I mean, you can see the huge range of coverage that we have. Right now, well, before we lost our antenna, I mean, we couldn't get too far out. Like when we would travel to Lewisburg for sure, and Paola and Spring Hill and those places, I couldn't, they would have to get on their phone if they needed something from me. They couldn't just do it through the radio. So we could look at getting a new antenna. It would cost around $6,000 to $7,000 to get that put up. Then we'd have to file the modification with the FCC, which would cost $300 to $500, and then possibly a monthly fee to the owner of the tower. And we would have the same amount of coverage that we had, which isn't very far. Like even to Eudora, like it's spotty. Lansing is spotty. I'm just kind of trying to give you like outlying areas. McLouth is spotty, and we can get to Bonner and Piper pretty good. Sometimes we have interference with other radios and that kind of thing. So with my long-term goal, when we've been getting new buses, I've been getting the radios for them that would switch to the digital. So we have a few that are already there, but it would cost, and I did not update this, I apologize, because I sent you an updated bid, because this bid doesn't include any handheld radios, which like I would need, the buildings would all need one in case they needed to contact the bus. We usually have one here in the district office, just so that updated one that you have, that's I think 43, that would include those handheld radios. And then that upfront cost would just be the one time, and then we would have the monthly fee of $8 a radio, because it goes off, I believe it goes off like cell towers, and that's why we have such a wider range of coverage.
So do we know if we own that antenna that they took down? And
I do not know if we own it. now that I found out this afternoon that Verizon, I don't know how much, history they have with that.
Right.
But that might be a place for me to start and try to find out. I mean, I don't know. But American Tower is basically, my radio guy got the impression like they don't even want to work with us, like to put it back there. He got the distinct impression that they're not interested in that. I did reach out to the sheriff's department. They have a tower at the annex, and she talked to her, I think the sheriff and the major and a lieutenant, and they were open to the possibility of us putting an antenna on their tower, which is at the annex, but we haven't talked about any kind of numbers or, what that monthly fee might be or anything like that. So
Or if the coverage would be equivalent.
it would be pretty much what we had, I
Yeah.
believe. I mean, because it would still be an antenna.
Yeah.
I mean, I think we should contact KSB, whether we have a written agreement or pay them anything, and just see what kind of legal,
Yeah.
well, I mean,
Some liability.
liability, if so, we would have
Oh,
had
well.
some issue. I mean, it
Right,
seems like a
it's-
poor look for that company, but, I mean, but then the second thing is, I know, given there's only so little time left in the school year, I mean, can we get by with what we get? I mean, I don't want to be just
Right,
cheap.
right,
I
right.
just want to
This
think
isn't
we ought to
gonna
get
be-
to a best decision.
Right. Either one of these isn't going to be like, we're going to get it done tomorrow because, we've got to, if we get an antenna, all of those things. So, yes, we are making do with what we have. I did ask the radio people with the digital, would this be ready to go? If we decided, would this be ready to go by August for school? And he said they could get it done by the start of school. So I don't know how long it would take with FCC to file that modification of location with them. I don't have any idea if we went with the new antenna option.
Do the bus drivers all have phones that they? Because I'm just thinking of it in the interim, if there's some emergency or something, do we have some?
Yeah.
means to-
Yes, they have phones.
Okay.
Yes.
Is there any logic? Do they have any kind of phone allowance now, the drivers?
No.
Would paying them a phone allowance and letting them use their own phones be equal to? It would almost be a
No,
little
because
bit
when
of-
they're driving, they are not to be on their phone. And there's
that's
situations that come up with students that we need to contact them where they would have to physically pull the bus over and stop
Okay.
to answer the phone.
Before school and after school, there is a lot of what I just call chatter between the drivers and Jill. It's just constant, and then after.
Well, and there
drop off.
even situations such as emergency vehicles, coming your way, or things like that. Or if I find out at route time that a road has been closed, or there's an accident, like there was an accident on 2440, we're gonna have to, so I can pick up the radio and just contact them all at the same time.
Yeah.
So one of the things you mentioned to me is, and I don't think you did yet tonight, but the new buses that you all have acquired
Yes.
are set up for digital.
Yes.
And that was kind of your plan all along.
Yes, yeah, that was my long-term goal because of the amount of range that we get. Because as I said, when we go too far out of town, our range is spotty.
So if the bus is already equipped with the digital equipment, it's $8 a month. Am I reading that right?
We are not paying that right now because we're using the antenna.
But if it's already equipped with digital, it's only $8 a month.
Yes.
We're not charging for setup.
Right.
So is there a way to do a little of both in the meantime? So you would have those that are already set up for digital, they would have that digital service at $8 a month, but then the ones that aren't could work off of an antenna. Would that be?
I'm not sure if they can, because
Will they
we're not
talk to
doing
each
that.
other?
Right, we're not doing that now because I don't think we can have it both ways. But I will definitely ask. I can
It would
ask
be an
that.
additional cost, obviously, if you put the antenna back up.
Well, yeah.
To me,
What
I would
she's-
think that antenna too, there should be some, if they took down, I know it was on their property, but if they took down something that belonged to someone else, there should be some kind of cost that they're, or giving us the antenna back.
We'll check.
There should be something that they're returning to us.
We'll check.
Cause I doubt we had an antenna, I doubt we were using an antenna that we didn't already own. So even though maybe we don't have the track record of that, maybe
Right.
I'm sure that we probably owned that, and I don't know what its value would be. But I didn't know if both of them, I'm not an expert, so can
Yeah,
they pick up the
I'm
same
not
signal if they're one's digital and one's not digital? Can they communicate, or can it be maybe the buses
Well-
can't communicate, but you could still communicate?
What I can tell you is, well, I have my doubts that they would communicate. And I can tell you also that like the buildings use radios like inside the building, so that would not be on the digital. That would be just for them to talk to each other. They wouldn't be able to talk to the buses. And so I don't know if that would use just,
Because
you
like
know,
if
our
a
antenna
kid's
that we
missing the
have.
bus and they're inside the building and they're trying to radio out to the bus, is that a possibility in the building if they're trying to radio out and say, hey, wait a second, we've got a kid headed out? Is that what you, do you currently do that? Is there a way to
Yes,
communicate?
yes, with the antenna. Right now, inside the buildings, it's very staticky. Like it's staticky inside the buildings with what we're currently having. Now, before the antenna went down, we could communicate like that, yes.
But if you go to digital, the buildings won't have digital equipment.
Well, we would get every building at least one. I think I have more than one for the elementary, because those are the ones that we have the most communication with because of the age of the students. But I was planning to get a bus radio for every building, so that
A
if they
digital
did,
radio.
a digital radio that's why I had to send the updated bid.
Is that part of that cost then too?
The updated
Yes,
one.
The digital
yeah,
Again,
with the
equipment.
updated bid.
But how many of these $8 fees?
Looks like 30, huh?
Yeah, 30. I didn't
You're
bring.
ordering
I didn't
30
bring the budget
radios.
or the bid.
On the
But
quantity
then,
there.
but then we have some already though. We're not buying every one because we have buses already equipped.
But you'll
Right.
have to
But
pay
they
for
don't
the
have that
service,
radio.
right?
Yeah, but
They're
I'm saying, is there
equipped but
just
don't have
30
the
or is there
radio.
a lot more than 30?
They're equipped with the new radio.
So
With
they already have it. We wouldn't have
They
to
already
pay.
have them. Yes.
But you would start paying $8,
Yes, if we went digital.
right?
Hmm.
How many of the buses are digital and how many of them aren't? Do you know
There's about 4 or 5 that have the digital
Yeah.
capability.
Okay.
Is this something, I mean,
Bring it
I
back
got
next-
put on an action item, but I think it's something
No,
that
we'll
we're
bring it
gonna
back in
wait,
June.
we can,
Let us do a little more research.
okay. and
This
then-
table.
Okay, I mean,
Yeah.
because it just,
So,
it seems like a need.
We're gonna find out. I just want to be clear. So you want me to try to find out if we can do both digital and antenna, like in the interim, and then we'll find out from I'll try to find out from Verizon or someone about our antenna, because I agree. I feel like we would have bought that thing.
And Jill, I'll call KSB.
Okay.
to take care of
The
it.
digital in the meantime, I don't know if it's an $8 fee and you could activate it. Is there a way to go ahead and activate those? Like,
We don't
and
have,
you send those on the longer distance routes to me?
we're not set up yet for it.
Yeah.
You
I
can't
mean,
do it
there would
just like-
be there
I
would
think
be
the
some
interface
setup.
will work
Yeah.
between one another.
Okay.
Yeah, we still have to buy the main receiver.
Oh, okay.
Well, I think too is that they said they could get it done by August. What assumption were they making on when the order was made to make that happen?
Well, I told them that I was presenting tonight, but I didn't tell them that there would be a decision tonight.
Okay.
But they
That's probably
obviously
a
know it's
follow
on
up
our
too, because we
radar.
don't want to.
Yeah.
Because we know we have to do something.
Yeah.
We have to do
And
something.
you don't want to
Well,
be in a spot to where then by August we
Right.
can't have
Yeah.
something in place.
It's not ideal for sure.
We'll work on it.
Well,
Okay.
sounds like an unfortunate situation you got handed to you, and I know the bus
Yeah.
drivers already are dealing with
Who would have thought?
parking
Like,
out in a.
When he told me they took down our antenna, I was like, what? What? Did I hear you correctly? So, yeah.
And do we have to put this out to bid then too? I mean,
Well, that's
'cause we
the
only
main
got-
one
I
we
mean,
work with. I think I don't think we have to because of the primary use, but this is who you typically have used.
Yes.
I mean, in
I've
all your
switched within the time that I've been here.
Right.
But yes, this is who we use for all of our radios. If I have any kind of radio issue,
Well, I mean, there's
contact
whatever
this.
the state law requirements are and what services we have to bid or not bid.
I'll
I
just
mean,
check
I
on that
guess,
too.
I mean,
Yep.
They have been very great. I thought it was kind of above and beyond that they came out with their drone.
Sounds good. Any other questions?
Well, she's got one more.
Jill?
topic.
Okay,
Yes,
sorry.
regarding the radio. Anything else?
Nope.
Okay, I just wanted to kind of circle back to our bus parking, just so I can give you a little bit better picture of where we're at currently. As you know, we don't really have a lot. The buses that we use for route are the ones that you saw when you used to go over to the other building for your meetings that were parked around the curb. That was so we could get in and out, get them in and out more easily. However, there's a lot of safety concerns with it because just like we've finished track season and the students are running laps on the parking lot as when we get back, and the throwers are on the access road and they're practicing out there. So it's just a real safety issue. Like we go like 10 miles an hour because we don't want anything tragic. Then also when we go out to our routes and then we come back and there's a home game, for instance, it's kind of, again, we have a lot of people in the parking lot. There's cars parked where we normally park, and you're talking about a 40-foot bus, and so it gets a little hairy. And then we're in their way when, and you guys may have experienced this with your own students, if you have a band concert or a music concert, we're kind of taking up a lot of parking spaces for those kinds of things too. And then I mentioned previously about the weather. You know, I do have someone on staff that can do some things that's nothing certified, but you know, changing out light bulbs and even stop arms and things like that. But if it's rainy or freezing, you know, I don't want to ask him to get on a ladder. So those are kinds of things that we end up taking someplace else, if down to Red Fuel, if you know, because you need to have your headlights. Like some things you can't wait, like you have to get it done that day. And then just, you know, if we had a place we could clean them and those kinds of things. There's no security, there's no fence. We don't lock the buses. So a secured facility would be most ideal. And then, like I said, just about the maintenance, you know, we are very pleased with Red Fuel, and I'm not trying to say anything, but there are some things that we could do in-house if we had a facility to do those things. This is our spare lot. I took these pictures. So the far one was, I removed that bus, but so drivers were having to trudge through that. Now I have got rock put down. They put the stuff that was supposed to like get hard, but then we had too much water, so then the buses sank in that. So then we got some more rock put on top of it. So it's holding its own now. We have a few little ruts, so when all of the when the buses go out on trips, I go out there with another bus and I'm like trying to smooth it out. So anyway, so those are just I just wanted you to have a better picture of kind of what we've been dealing with for the past 3 years, I think it's been. So, and then Mitch was gonna say a plan. We've been trying to come up with, you know, something that we could offer as a possible solution.
Sure.
Right?
Yes. She's supposed to warm me up. We're just kind of
And you can do that.
perfect. We're just kind of picking up on the conversation I think we had the last time when we started to dive into this. But I think the biggest thing where we're at is just looking to make a decision. So this is one of the renderings DLR did when we initially had the bond excess of opportunities and things we could do. And they did a couple for us. This one here, I believe, the lot that's down on the old soccer field, it's kind of hard to see, but they are calling for that lot to basically house 60 full-size buses and 30 minibuses, so in excess of what we currently have. But just to give you an idea of what that size is, they're making some generalizations on these roads and things. Like you can see that this is kind of where the fence goes right here where my mouse is. So where they kind of did this up, this isn't a great rendering because this is a lot of dirt work here with that drainage ditch going through there, fixing the culvert to go over the ditch. But the size of that is housing 60 buses, and that's a 7,000 square foot, 7,000 square foot facility. When they designed it, it has 2 bus bays in it and then just a storage area. So that's kind of what they gave us. And then obviously lot C up there was car parking intended for the rec commission or whatever we wanted to do with it. But kind of what I'm looking at, I think they're both serviceable in the lots. And then if you liked that, you'll really like my rendering. So this is, I should probably work for DLR. This is basically outlining what we would, so we talked about rocking this area and just giving a temporary parking lot on there. This is what it would take to house roughly 40 buses. So you're about half the soccer field. Those lines are 2 buses, roughly, based on what I'm looking at on Google Earth. And then you can kind of tell, like I said, we'd have to obviously dress up the road that comes in there to get buses across there consistently. And then the shaded in area here would be, what I put on there, 60 by 70 building that would house 1 bus bay and then just some excess storage for maintenance. And then possibly a little lounge, but gravel in that area and then using the old track as kind of a drive lane as a circle is where I'm going with that, because that ground is going to have a little more density to circle in and out of there. But it is about half of that soccer field from the old concession stand that's under my building drawing right there, and going that way. So I think what we were, my conversation with Lauren, there's obviously a lot of work that's got to be done here if we're going to pursue this. A lot of logistics that I did not want to dive into tonight or give to you, but I just kind of want to show you guys what they had come up with for that space, what 60 buses and 30 minibuses look like on Lot B, which is pretty much the entire soccer field if you kind of turn it in just square footage. And then this would be more of addressing a temporary need to gravel the space that is in red, beautiful Sharpie there. And then following the fence and keeping all that in there. So
One of the things Mitch and I talked about is if we ever did have a parking lot, off to the west here, we could park vans, school vehicles, like the cars up there, because Jill's office is right on the northwest corner. That's accessibility. Not quite the northwest corner, but close. But that's good accessibility for her. The buses, don't have to be on that curve is that C up there?
C, yeah.
That's not really what we're after. It's more putting them down on the field, making it a temporary rock at this time, unless something else much more appealing comes into play. But we don't have a plan, and I know how badly we would like to get the buses off the middle school parking lot. Even you're doing all your inspections in July,
Yes.
and at that point, up at the middle school, at that point, we would really like to remove them from there. It's been hard on the parking lot. It's just not made for it. We know that. It's the weight of the bus. So we need some direction, or we need to. That's just where we're at.
Are you looking at like a Morton building kind of building?
Yeah, I think where we have I know 4 years ago we dug into a new facility and all sorts of great stuff there. I think we have gone back to give me a concrete slab with some metal framing and just a roof and some walls. And what we do inside of there, honestly, it would give me a little more storage space from a maintenance standpoint for some of our equipment, but there wouldn't be any sort of it'd be to pull through door for the buses, and then no, I don't know, glitz or glamour to this. It would just be,
A big part of it too, Jill's office wouldn't be located there.
No.
this would, I think I view it as strictly storage. The reason for that space was that concession stand is down there. There's overhead power that goes to the concession stand. There's plumbing down there. So again, without trying to dive too far into logistics of, if we decide, hey, this is where we want to go with it, then we can start framing things around what's down there a little better. But I mean, there is plumbing, there is power down there. It would just be demoing that building out and then using that existing utilities, which would save a pretty substantial
You're
amount of
probably,
money.
if you're planning to plug buses in, which I would assume you're gonna wanna do, you're gonna need a different circuit down there.
Yeah.
And more power.
In lights, you talked about a couple safety lights.
Yes,
down
yes, we would like to have lights for safety. I mean, they start before the sun's up and
Yeah.
trips, they get back in the dark and.
Well, when
for
it's
safety.
cold out and they start them up, do you want them to, because I know that there has been talk about just someplace
Yes,
set.
I would like the building to include just a small area where they could go in and wait for the bus to warm up, or a bathroom, you know, nothing fancy, but
Right.
just a place for them to go and not be using their own fuel to stay warm, you know.
Right, in there,
'Cause that
yeah.
is what they're doing now.
Well, this is like the next thing on, I don't know, or, I mean, from the capital plan priorities, is this the next one that we
Yeah,
haven't
it's right
addressed?
there. It's 6 or 7. We've knocked off several, but this is right up there. It was in the top 8,
Yeah.
Well, I
and
mean, I
so
think
it's
we-
right. It's right in there.
I don't know what the process is to start figuring out costs. I mean, no matter where you build it, I mean, you're gonna have about the same size.
So I
mean,
think that-
we've tossed around
Right.
a couple different locations, but you're still gonna have some of the same basic.
I think the only, I mean, this was the utilities and not having to relocate or dig in new sewer line or something like that. I mean, that was going to be the advantage here, but on some level, the parking lot and the building is all going to be the same thing, but you also have a cost to demo the old concession stand. And like I said, I think we're just kind of, if we want to pursue this route to a dollar amount, then we can do that. It's just, do we want to go here? Do we want to say, hey, we're going to try parking lot C? Where maybe we don't. I don't know how building plays in up here. I'm not sure we want that, or this is kind of hidden, and that's, I think from a safety and security and aesthetically,
I don't
there's a
think the
fence.
buses up by the highway is the ideal look.
Yeah.
I mean,
It is. Yeah, I don't.
Yeah, they're kind of tucked away behind this building.
They did some other designs of like a long road down here with elongated, like just pull head in parking. I mean, they gave us a lot of options, but that was a right in, right out on 2440, and that seems like you're going down a rabbit hole that you.
yeah.
I don't
We
know if
used to
they
park
would
down
allow us
there.
to approve
It's
that.
it's not.
I don't-
It's a little dangerous.
So is the next steps to engage a professional to really scope it out,
Yeah.
to see, because we talk about, try to find the gotchas with regards to, is our assumption about utilities correct? Is
Correct.
it, do you want to put lights out in a gravel lot? Is that reasonable? I don't know, to have.
And there's a phasing discussion too. Like, is this going to be? How do we do it? So if we decide to make it permanent and put an actual asphalt lot in there, I mean, can we still accommodate that in 10 years or 5 years
Or is what they're going to say, you better just do it now?
Right,
type of thing.
exactly.
Maybe, I don't know.
and maybe I think it's just that professional engagement, but I don't know if we want to go down the road of asking or paying for a lot of work if we decide, hey, that area is not substantial, it's not going to work, we don't like it down there, we think we want to go somewhere else, we can start that discussion. But I think finding the location right now is the direction we're looking for.
I think we've been looking at this so long, this is the only location we've been able to really identify, is that right? There isn't a clear obstacle.
maybe.
I don't know if we want to open a can of worms for the water tower again, but we can certainly talk about it
I
some
think
more.
we've run that to ground.
we think if we do it right,
Don't give
like
up.
you said, do the proper planning, do all the research, get professionals involved, it could be a good location for us. We have to widen, that area where up there up to the rock, that's too narrow. You know, there's a tube runs through there, it would have to be built up, that kind of stuff. But we do have a fence around it already, that's a plus. And the location's fine, you know, it's on our property, that's another bonus. We're not buying property.
I mean, you're still gonna have quite a bit of dirt
Yes.
work and stuff, you know, but it's.
Through the driveway.
And there's
Well,
a lot
even the crown, I don't know if.
there's a lot of there's some drainage where it drops off the
You
soccer
might-
field, goes back up to the
Yeah.
track, and so I mean there's some leveling, and it just again depends on like the rock gravel, the lot she showed you in that earlier picture. I think we put like a 4 to 6 inch base down, and then dropped 1 to 2 inch washed gravel over the top of it. And so I mean,
Well, and you're gonna have,
we're gonna need to
a
substantially
detention
do better than
pond.
that.
a detention pond.
Mhm.
For water.
For water and storm and stuff, which is gonna have to get somewhere.
Yep. And I don't know if that
there's a lot
goes-
more to it that it has to just be worked through.
Right, and like I said, there's space
At
back
some
here.
point, we gotta start somewhere.
No.
Yeah,
Actually,
mean,
my point is there is enough to go through. That's why you would do a professional to understand
Right.
really what you're looking at.
So we can. I guess if I would think the first question would just be the size and the scope of slightly more professional than what you're looking at here, but does it fit? You know, we didn't engage bus turn radius or anything on any of these corners or things like that. It's just
Right.
strictly a bus is this big. We got 40 of them. This is the lot we're looking at because some of you guys like pictures.
Well, and you'd also be looking at what kind of gate, security, that
Right.
kind of stuff. All
I mean, it's
you know.
there. It's just, yeah. Is it good enough? And again, is it temporary? Is it permanent? But if we say this is the location we're going to go at, then we can certainly start that discussion and come up with the options of temporary, of permanent, of a 7,000 square foot building. What would a 10,000 square foot building look? You know, we can start answering all those questions, but we got to make sure that the city's good with it, that it works with. You know, we're not getting into something we don't know what we're looking at either. So.
Yeah, when it comes to the maintenance side, my opinion is I'm okay with us doing the absolute very basic stuff because having professionals look at, I mean, we're buying newer equipment, we're constantly on a refresh schedule, having skilled technicians, even it's one of these things you go into the doctor and you're for one thing, and then they're asking you questions, they find other stuff. The equipment's like that. You take it into a professional, they see things, preventative, stuff like that they're checking on and things. So I really like where we're at with using, doing as little as we need to do ourselves, and especially if you can reduce the size of a building because it takes a long time to pay back that
Right.
investment of that building, square footage.
We don't do any certified work, and we wouldn't.
What when you say certified, what do you
Well,
mean?
anything really with engine.
Brakes.
Drivetrain.
Brakes, suspension, body, yeah,
Right. All
That's
that
sort of thing.
goes.
electrical, other than light
Major
bulbs.
electrical.
Lights, things like that. Sometimes they'll try to troubleshoot and can find it, but
Yeah,
Well, I would.
It seems like you have kind of there's a little bit of a chicken and egg with this thing, right? So the board at some point needs to say we're willing to spend X, but we're going to have to go do some level of research to know what X is.
We can start that.
And I don't think there's a shortcut for that. You just got to dig in and find out what the number is, and if it's something we can handle, great. And if it's not, we do something different.
I mean, I guess I was thinking next time, or if you can, at the earliest, next meeting would be like something to RFP to engage somebody or kind of a scope of work
The
or
scope
something.
is, I guess, where I'm looking for. We can take it if it's just, but what we're trying. I mean, we could go as this, or we could say we're just putting gravel down to park buses for 2 summers, and then we're not going to mess with the building. I mean, so the scope of work, I think, is probably the directive we're looking for. Of do we want a building? Do we not want a building? And then,
well, you're still going to need, if you just put gravel down, your
Yeah.
impervious, and you still have to have that designed because you're going to have runoff and
correct.
things like that. So a permit is going to be required to do it.
So we're saying temporary, but it almost feels permanent.
Potentially.
If I'm engaging dollars
Mhm.
on a building, that seems permanent to
Yeah.
me.
Well, that's why I think
So
Mitch is
if we're
saying.
gonna make that commitment, I agree with Drew. There needs to be some research.
Yeah.
I'm going to say it again on the record. I'm spending city residents' tax dollars. We should be using property that makes sense out behind the middle school and elementary school. I know we're shaking our heads, but I'm spending tax dollars money. It's awful disappointing to not be able to build on our own property
Oh, I agree.
in the ideal location.
We're getting that in the
That
paper.
requires the least amount of work, the least amount of expense of taxpayers' dollars trying to be good stewards to use property that we have.
Well, until we know what this, I mean, I don't totally disagree, but I mean, we gotta start with some cost and figure out what this costs, and maybe then we
Well,
need
you
to
start
compare what the
talking
other
about
costs.
grading ditches, stormwater challenges already down there versus semi-flat. There's some cost that you're gonna spend here that would not be spent out there,
Don't
in my
disagree.
opinion.
Don't disagree.
So,
But I think what I'm hearing is we just need to try to put some scope together, put some numbers together, bring it back, let you guys look at it. That's really where we're at.
Lauren, I have actually a lot of information on planning
Okay.
for that kind of stuff for as far as deliverables. If it's okay, I could send that to you
Perfect.
and you can then share it with the team, and that would probably, I think that might really help inform you as far as what to ask for scope in an RFP or something like
Yeah,
that.
Yeah. That's good.
So I'll send that to you
Thank
this
you.
week.
Thanks.
What I guess too, I'm trying to wrap my head around, what is the cost of not doing something? So like, how quicker are we gonna have to replace the,
No. I mean, we haven't done any study on the parking lot out there at the middle school, but Jill kind of addressed all the other issues that are going on out there. The safety is easily number one. I'd say within the next 3 to 4 years, we're probably going to have to do a major rebuild of that entire parking lot from base up. It's not going to be just a coating. What's the right term? An overlay. It's going to take a pretty significant amount. So it'll hold up for 4 to 5 years, even the way it is now. The overlay we laid 3 years ago did a pretty good job. It's hanging in there. It's just where she's parking the buses, you got this ripple effect. You know, just the weight is, but that's on that far.
Yeah, it also,
how
yeah, it
far
does
in.
impact the visibility out there when you're driving around.
I mean-
those buses, blind spots.
the other question I have before we engage engineers, architects, I guess my first question would be to the city, are they even gonna approve? Here,
When I talked to the city manager, I got a thumbs up. But I didn't. I'll go back and revisit that to make sure. The reply
ask
I got
about the
was
property out there again too, just in case.
I will.
Maybe he's got a change of heart.
Okay, thank you. I will. But no, I got a positive response about our own property there.
Very good.
Versus our own property out there.
Mitch is loving this.
I just,
I think that.
No.
Is there anything else for Mitch?
yeah, like I
Or
said,
Jill? Well, Mitch has more to go, but I think Jill. Thank
Thank you,
job.
Jill.
Yeah,
I
thank
know
you.
your bus drivers have put up with a lot for the last 3 years of being put out there, and they're.
If
I don't have an answer immediately, but I think they're a lot higher on the list, and this is the start of something good, I think.
And if you find that we're coming up against a deadline for August for the radios, reach out through the administration.
Yeah.
Well, yeah,
Right
we
away.
could do a
Maybe
special
speed that up.
meeting if we had to.
Yeah.
Thank you, Jill. Appreciate your time. All right, Mitch, you got a few other things.
is it me? Am I up on the agenda next?
Yes, you're next.
All right. The only thing I just kind of want to, Lauren asked to bring you up to date on our summer projects and work. The new playground is off and running. June 5th is when that work's going to start with site work, base work, and some of the installation. And then the rest of the equipment, the new big piece of equipment, the really big, nice one we purchased is scheduled to go in the week of June 22nd. So that should be completed early to mid-July, so in plenty of time there. as of right now, I haven't heard anything different on their end. If you notice, bleacher tear out started the other day. The company Heartland came and removed the old bleachers from the pad there, and I actually ran into the contractor that's taking out the pad and let them know that that's ready to go. So they're planning on moving that. We gave them a window of basically May 15th to June 15th. And then the week of June 15th, the bleachers are supposed to arrive for new install. So we kind of told them June 15th to July 15th for that install to finish that work. The only thing hanging out there, the fence company put a material submittal together a week and a half ago, and I haven't heard back from them, but we're just kind of going to juggle that on the back end of everything. But they'll start demoing the fence to do some of that work too. So that kind of sounds like that'll happen in July and on the back end of everything else that's going on. So we got those two things, our major projects, and then the CTE renovation is due up for May 22nd for those guys to start soft opening and move in, and then substantial completion by August 1st. So I have not heard anything regarding material delays or anything like that on any of our summer projects to this point. Every contractor we've talked to says they are good to go and everything on time. So the hope is that we will have visiting bleachers, a new playground, and renovated CTE all done by August and ready for the school year. So we got a few odds and ends, other little things we'll be doing, but that's the big stuff. So
And the CTE includes these rooms that
Correct,
we
yeah.
approved last time.
yeah, and so they same type of deal. We shoot for August 1st so we can get Jill moved over and talk to the middle school today, and they want to try to see that happen a little bit faster. So we're going to see what we can come up with on that. But yeah, that should all be done in that time frame.
With the community using the turf and the track and potentially the old playground, do we have enough fence and signage that people aren't going to get hurt with any of the construction stuff going on?
So Becky's working on something right now to send out about playground closure, basically starting June 1st, and we're just going to send out a message June 1st to July 31st to kind of cover our bases that we're going to close that down. And then we're looking at fencing. I don't know if you guys can picture it, but the elementary playground's got a gate, but then it's got openings on both sides, and to complete a fence structure between that gate. So you can't just drive up in there anyway, and we'd be able to close it off from the school side. Now, obviously, the back property where people walk down the hill, I don't know if we can control that, but the plan is to communicate that out, and then the playground contractor is going to tape it off and rope it off, and liability signage, I guess, will be installed there. The football field, the footprint there, we've talked about them making is all coming from the side road there, taking that fence out, so they shouldn't be anywhere on the inside of the fence. And I would hope common sense would control a lot of folks, but I think we're all smarter than that too. So I think we'll just make sure we've got adequate signage there so we are covered from a liability standpoint.
I mean, I like that. Elementary, I don't know if they could do it. Maybe the police can patrol back there a little bit during the summer, because somebody rides motorcycles back in there, because I can hear them from my house every once in a while.
I can see the
on
tire
the
tracks going
weekend.
down the hills. Yeah, we'll get that gate shut in the back, but you got a lot of houses that back up to our property there, and that's the majority of our summer traffic on that playground comes from that housing community behind and where they come down the hill. But like I said, I'm hoping that we can send out enough communication to let people know that it's just going to be closed this summer, and for good reason, and kids will be excited August 1st to get back out there.
Any other questions?
The only thing I
Info?
had for Mitch is we hosted the alumni banquet on Saturday, and just talking to some of the people that were there, they were really commenting on the facilities, the cleanliness of the facilities that the location they were at. All the landscaping out front was just very appealing, and so kudos to the maintenance and custodial crew for everything that they're doing. And we've had a lot of traffic in the buildings, and like you said, they just keep plugging away and doing a great job. So
Excellent job.
So thank them for us.
You bet. We'll do.
All right.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Mitch.
Thank you.
Moving on to the consent agenda, is there a motion to approve the consent agenda as
make-
amended earlier?
Make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Is there a
With the-
second? Sorry.
With the changes.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, raise your right hand. Motion carried. Alright. Any public comments? Move into reports.
Ready?
Yep.
Mine is actually pretty short. So, I just put Cody's information back in there as a reminder about times and what, to be there on Saturday. I think we have all the board members attending Saturday. So this is in my update. Should be in there.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So that's just from Cody. That first part. I also just want to touch base. Community Service Day last Wednesday was, it's kind of a feel-good day when you walk around and see the kids who are really putting a lot of pride into their work, and the staff helping alongside. Talk to some of the people down VFW Park. They just rely on that. They're thrilled to have everybody come down, and they look forward to having you guys there. So, and I know the Historical Society. Where did you guys?
We do the bake sale. So we
Oh
actually-
yeah, you were out
We
front.
actually held the bake sale here, and I haven't been in this position that long. It's my second year at high school, but we raised more than we did last year, and we raised more on our own campus, so that I was really excited about that. So hoping to get over $300 next year. We got
Yeah,
right at 300.
that's
So
good.
I'm excited about it, and we love it.
There were delicious goodies,
Yeah.
I will say that.
Becky took a lot of pictures, or I don't know who took all the pictures, but of the insert or the community service day, and they're on the website. Just a great day. I did kind of just put a little mention, after graduation and getting school ended, that little project that I have with the Tonganoxie FFA alumni dice run on May 20th. And once again, Becky's been helping me with that, getting all that information out. And, we're looking forward, to raising some money for the FFA scholarships, and VFW park preservation is where the funds all go. And then I just included a little bit what Mitch alluded to, was just a quick summary from Aaron that you can read. Same thing Mitch just said. We have every Wednesday, we have OAC meetings, and until they really get started, on May 22nd, there's not a lot to report at this point. So in June, Aaron will be back with a presentation. So that's all I got.
The only thing since it's the first time we've had graduation here since we've
Mhm.
remodeled, I don't know if we have any parking concerns or if we've thought about that.
Yeah.
Because it was pretty bad in the past when we had it here.
Well,
And I know we might have some more, but
I know Tanya's mentioned the fact that across the road that we could possibly shuttle people from the parking lot. Maybe we should readdress that. It's going to be a challenge, no doubt.
This back lot.
Yeah, we'll put them as far. Yeah, we'll put them everywhere.
Because a lot of times those gates are shut. So
I
they're
think
open.
I think the plan is to have those gates all open. Yes, and they can park anywhere they can back in that area.
max parking.
Max it out. Yes, we'll see, but I don't know if
Then
I don't know
people
if he
get
wants.
creative, and that's hard on the landscape then.
But yeah, we'll talk about
Because
it
it's
more.
supposed to, I'm seeing rain in the forecast. There's a lot.
Yeah, so-
I know, but I think that I thought they had I know there's a lot of high school band and choir kids that they consolidated and had them carpool, or they did something.
That would help.
It's not a lot of cars, but
We'll talk. We need to talk
every
about
space
that
helps.
tomorrow. We have an admin meeting in the morning.
Anything for Lauren? If not, Tanya?
All right, it is May and it is busy. State assessments have been completed. The individual score reports will be available to districts soon in May. They have not given a specific date this year, but it should be late May or early June at the very latest. Once they're available to us, then they'll be placed in the parent portal, and I will send out parent portal login information. That is if you have an active email address in Skyward. So if you know parents who do not have an active email, or they've maybe changed their email, have them get with us to update that. That's the only way we know to We have to use their email address, and then they log in and set their own password. So that houses all of the students' current and prior assessment scores. So if they've taken state assessments in prior years, they will all be in that parent portal. And once I send out the login information, I'll send basically a handbook that walks them through how to access their scores, so parents can have that information right away. All right, summer school we have going on for the high school and the middle school only, and this is credit recovery summer school like we've done in the past, May 30th through June 15th. It'll be Monday through Thursday, but that first week, because of Memorial Day, it will be Tuesday through Thursday.
When does those notifications go out?
Well, with high school and middle school, it's kind of tricky because they go right up to when they take their finals. Because if they know early, they can let you know early. But some of those kids are right on the bubble, so
It
they
would
may
be,
not know.
as a parent who's had that before, it would be nice to get something to say, your child is potentially going to have to take it. It depends upon, like you said, finals and that kind of stuff. And here's the dates, and the final communication will be coming this date, and then fall, to basically give a heads up, because everything, like you said, it's so busy.
It is.
And the one time that we got that, it was like at the 11th hour, and we had to reschedule a bunch of stuff, but because it wasn't till you get the notice to really know, and it would just be good as a parent to get some heads up.
We do have that admin meeting in the morning, so I'll remind them that would be a great idea to send out at least a heads up to parents who might be.
Yeah, and then when and it's that there's a heads up that it might happen, and then when the final communication on whether it will or will not be will be going out, by a certain date, so you can plan around it.
Mm-hmm. I will do that. I will let them know tomorrow. As part of the summer school and part of the just being in the community, we do have summer lunches provided at the elementary site. It is not grab and go, so it is set and get. So if you want to come and eat at the elementary, if you're between the ages of 1 and 18 and you're in the community, you can come and eat for free, but you have to come and sit down and eat at the elementary. And Barb will be sending out more information on that, but we just wanted to kind of tag that on to summer school as well. So any students who are at summer school, if they wish to eat, they are more than welcome to come over to the elementary to eat. All right, KELPA scores were out. KELPA is the English language learners test, and it is taken just prior to the other state assessments, so the scores are out already. I put a few highlights in there of information. 19% of our students scored proficient. It is extremely difficult to score proficient on this assessment. It's very difficult. In the past, we may have had 1 or 2 students who scored proficient for many years, and since we've started up our program, we hired Tracy Barnett 4 years ago as our coordinator, and since then she has done fabulous. 56% of our students are showing improvement, and some of them are only a point away from being proficient. 26% of students maintain their progress toward proficiency, and 30% of the students taking the KELPA were brand new to school or new to our district, and they had not taken KELPA prior. So that's a pretty big number. Currently, we have 4 different languages other than English that are spoken in the district. So you can see Hmong, Spanish, Swahili, and Ukraine. And Tracy's done a fabulous job with that program. So just wanted to give you a few highlights of that and let you know some really good things are going on in the district. That's all I have.
Questions for Tanya or anything? Going once, twice. Thank you, Tanya. Move into action items. Item 5.1. I think Lauren has updated us on this. I don't know if anyone has any questions or comments. If not, I would move that the district hire Brandy Taylor as our new Director of Student Improvement Services. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, please raise your right hand. Motion carried. All right, the Green Bush contracts. I did send Lauren a question on that. I was just going to try to have him there's a variety of different things here. I know we use them for a lot of services. Maybe you can kind of give a background or a summary on that before
Well, yeah, it was, when I read back through it, it was a little bit of confusing because what they did is added additional services that they offered. But the 4 contracts that they have are the same ones that we've had for several years. There's no changes to that at all. So what we're approving are those 4, and if I did my math right, it totals up to $26,314.30. And I hope that's right. And then, but anything else on that email was just additional services that they were kind of reminding us were options for us.
So it's the administrative services, is this the Zello, Ed Tech?
SIS. Yeah. And these are reoccurring. We've had these.
Any questions for Lauren? Further clarification? Is there a motion to approve action item 5.2?
I would make a motion to approve 5.2, the renewal of the Greenbush contracts.
Is there a second?
Second it.
All in favor, please raise your right hand. Motion carried. Approval of post-instructional coach positions. Again, I think this ties back to the Director of Student Improvement Services. We've got the job descriptions there. The request is for 2 positions.
2 positions.
And
they
theirs
would-
is mainly focused at the elementary to
They
get
would be
started.
focused primarily at the elementary, but that wouldn't mean they wouldn't touch, as they get to know the staff at the middle school and the high school, because they got to build those relationships. And so that's what we thought was this year, going into 23-24, there would be 2 instructional coaches, reevaluate again in the spring, see where we're at, and possibly build upon that if we're in that position. So what we'd like to do is, for our planning purposes, get this posted so that we can start an interview process and get them on board in their new assignment as quick as possible, because they may be internal, they may be external. If they're internal, we might have to replace a teacher at one of the buildings, and so that's why this is pretty important to get this moving. So
As Brandy had an opportunity to look, we just approved her.
yeah,
So, my only thing is that if, for her to have ownership of
Yes.
this, I'd like for her to have
she will.
a significant input into
We-
the description of, but maybe this can be
Yeah.
edited or modified.
She will
or-
be taking the lead.
Okay.
This is hers.
And there will be a pretty intensive training this summer that Brandy will go to, and then any instructional coaches we hire. It's very intensive. It's located in Lawrence, and it is put on by Jim Knight, and he is the guru in instructional coaching. So we're very
It's for what,
fortunate.
4
to-
days? 4 days of training?
5 days.
5 days?
5 full. It's an outstanding training, and I'm really excited to have our folks go to that.
I think if I heard Drew, that it's, as the position evolves, if there's something not in the job description or edited as they go through this process, that
Yeah.
we kind of
Bring it back.
keep it tight and evaluate it.
Why do you have them reporting to 2 different people?
Well, because Tanya will, I'll answer first, but Tanya will do Brandy's evaluation.
Well, it says for the instructional coach, it says principal and director of student improvement services.
Well, they'll be I guess, go ahead. Is that the way we want it?
Well, there.
Nobody wants multiple bosses.
It's kind of both though, because they will be functioning. They will be housed in the building that
Who's
they
doing
are.
their performance reviews?
It will be a combination of both. The director of school improvement services will be the main evaluator, but the principal will have input in.
Okay, so it's a director.
I would create clarity there. I don't think it needs to happen tonight.
Let's do
but
that.
I think there needs to be clarity between solid line and dotted line.
I guess I don't like the principal being the evaluator, because when you're looking at an instructional coach, they need to be working as a partner with the teachers, not an evaluator of the teachers. And I feel like if you have them tied directly to the principal, you put them in an evaluator position.
I see that.
And so it should be more of they're going to help coach the teachers. They're not there to.
So, if the administrator had any input, they would work through the
Through
director of
this-
school improvement
correct.
services.
Well, they're almost like an auditor. You don't let them. She needs to report to her boss, Because she might have,
That makes
they might have different opinions within the principal, I guess.
Correct.
Not be influenced by that.
Yeah.
So when we meet with Brandy, we'll tighten this up. I think I like it.
Yeah.
Tonight, I mean, the action item is to approve the 2 positions. Is there a motion for action item 5.3?
I move that we approve action item 5.3, the approval to post 2 instructional coach positions.
Is there a second? Second. All in favor, please raise your right hand. All right, motion carried.
Just for the board's information, the Director of School Improvement Services and instructional coaches will be paid for through at-risk funds. I mean, I think that's really important that people know that. So, thank you.
Item 5.4, we agreed to table that to next meeting.
I think Drew said it when Jill was in the room, but I do kind of see that as a safety thing. So if that all of a sudden there's some deadline, we ought to talk about that.
Yeah, I've got it down.
So that item 5.4 is tabled. 5.5, approval of the ELA textbook adoption. I don't know if anybody wants to provide any more information or you have any questions on that.
It's just secondary for this evening. I've met with the elementary team leads today with Mrs. Blazo, and we've narrowed it down to the final 2 pieces, and we've addressed some concerns, and there'll be some more information that I'll bring to the board that we'll talk through. But for tonight's purposes, it's just the secondary 6 through 12 HMH into literature.
Can you briefly explain like how you determine, like, do they go and observe other places teaching it? Do they talk to anybody outside of the company?
Yes.
How do you make that determination?
Yes. We initially started out with our ELA adoption committee, and that was based on first I just kind of cast a wide net and asked for volunteers, and then where I saw holes where we didn't have grade levels represented, I pulled in some more folks for that. So we had every grade level represented, and then for secondary we had some from each building, and we had some administrators on the team as well. We had several meetings where we walked through rubrics. We looked at all kinds of different samples that we ordered in. Based on that, we initially weeded out several. There were several that you can get rid of right away. Once we had it narrowed down, now the secondary, there are fewer secondary resources that you can look to, and they had really narrowed it down to their top 4. So on a professional development day in February, we had Zoom meetings because of the snow. So we had Zoom meetings with each of the reps, and they demoed their products. And the teachers, I gave them a list of other school districts who were currently using the programs, and they, we reached out, talked with some teachers outside of our district, and then they had narrowed it down. Beyond that, I sent out a survey to them, and then they had made their selection. They were all unanimous and very, very strongly chose HMH into literature. Elementary is a little more in depth because we're really looking at the science of reading, and because of the Every Child Can Read Act, now every school has to teach to the science of reading. So we had to make sure that whatever we selected is based on the science of reading. So we narrowed it down at one point to 4. We had Zoom meetings again with the reps, and they kind of walked us through their resources. We had Q&A sessions with the reps, and then we narrowed down to 3. And we had visits to other school districts, with the exception of one. There's one that is not being used in the state of Kansas. So we reached out to 2 school districts in Missouri who we're currently using, and asked if they were able to Zoom with us so we could do a Q&A session with their teachers. They were not able to make that work due to state testing. So we were able to visit one school district that was using one. They had a direct connection to McLeod, who was using another. So we've had several conversations with teachers. There are 2 other school districts who were using one of the resources, and we sent Q&A to them. They filled out and sent it back to us. We've done we did 2 surveys with those staff to narrow those down further. And then today I went and met with the team leads to talk through a few more of their concerns and So we've narrowed it down to these final two. And based on what the teachers asked today and information they were seeking, we're putting together some more information, and then we'll get back with them. There's a few things I wanted to walk through with the board after this meeting at another time that we'll select, where we just kind of walk through exactly what those two involve, so there's no confusion and everybody's on the same page, and then we'll make our selection and move forward. So likely we'll bring that back to the meeting in June.
So part of your students or part of your selection is they're looking at student success in the other districts. So
Yes.
how successful is that curriculum for that district is what I'm.
The final two that we've narrowed down for the elementary, the one is extremely successful in Kansas. There are several school districts using one of those resources, and they are seeing huge gains in students, not only in their state assessment scores, but in their MAP or FastBridge scores. The other one is hard to measure because no school districts in Kansas are using it.
Does it not align with Kansas standards, or does it? That would be my concern. If it's not being used in Kansas, does it align with Kansas?
Well, and
standards?
they say it does. However, we have no one in Kansas using it. So we've looked outside of Kansas, but it's hard to measure. You know, is it making good gains? Well, it might be with their state standard. We just don't know. And that's part of my hesitation too, is it's not being used in Kansas yet. Why? So that's one of my hesitancies. The other is making huge gains.
Any other questions?
The 279,000, is that like close to what we've budgeted for?
Yes, yes.
ELA is the
Largest.
most expensive adoption that we ever do. And that's because there are so many extra resources. You have your decodable readers, your novels. I mean, there's so much stuff that goes with it in addition to your online access. Textbooks are not getting cheaper, nor is the online access.
Any further questions? If not, I'd entertain a motion on action item 5.5.
Move that we approve item 5.5, approval of ELA textbook adoption as presented.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor, please raise your right hand. All right, motion carried. All right, and we have one other item. Item 5.6 was the Rec Commission has asked just to renominate Mrs. Kissinger for
Yes, there you go.
the board seat. She already serves there. It's just time for a renewal. So they just have that up. So I guess I would move that we nominate Mrs. Kissinger to renew her seat on the board of the Rec Commission. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, please raise your right hand. All right, motion carried. All right, that's all the action items. Executive session, I don't believe we have any need for that tonight. The only future dates, if Tanya possibly needs something for the ELA with elementary is possible. The other thing that Lauren will kind of want to get on, talk about getting on people's radars, we had the retreat last year, June-ish, late June. I know that kind of hits vacation time. I don't know, we'll have to explore some dates, but the strategic plan that I think Tanya and Lauren are working on to kind of.
What we'd like to do is maybe have it in our PD room with administrators and board members, and to get everybody on the same page for the strategic planning. We're pretty flexible on the dates, so it might, I'd like to try to get it maybe in June, but we gotta make sure we get everybody there. That would be my,
Determining that sooner than later would be good.
yes, I agree. I would like to get on it. So,
June's kind of busy.
I mean, it's been a while since we've worked on it, so I'll try to throw
Do
some
you want to look
dates.
some dates up?
I will. Get it out there.
All right. Seeing nothing else, meeting adjourned.
There you go. Thank you.